So there's only two topics today I actually want to cover, and they're both rather crazy. Who has the upper hand when it comes to the involvement in this negotiation in China between Trump and Xi? I think it's pretty obvious, and anyone who's been watching anything that's been going on recently knows who holds the upper hand. Additionally, where are we at when it comes to data centers? There's this whole controversy going on and on and on today on all kinds of sides of the spectrums about data centers. And unfortunately, not everyone is getting it right. In fact, most people are getting it wrong because they're siding on one side or the other. And you actually have people like Tucker Carlson who's going off crazy, but I mean, we'll get into it, right? We'll get into it. Welcome to Ripple Effect. This is where I go behind the headlines to show you exactly how everything's affecting your life and to show you how in reverse, with the knowledge that you gain, you can affect things that are around you and create a ripple effect in your life for the good. Let's get into it. Before we get into it, let's go ahead and talk about liking, commenting, and subscribing. It makes a huge difference to a channel of my size. And even if your comment is only an American flag or something like a thumbs up, it doesn't matter. All that tremendously helps the channel and helps us to grow and helps us to have more impact around everywhere, around the world, if we can. It also helps us do more fun things because if I can grow the channel a little bit, then I can do interviews. I'd like to do some interviews with some people that are local here in California, but unfortunately, the channel is probably not big enough for them to concern themselves at this point. Now, let's get into it. Who is really winning when it comes to the negotiations with Xi Jinping and Trump? There's a lot of posturing going on right away. What's funny is I was looking at this and I thought this to myself. The one who's posturing the most is Xi. Like Trump's kind of just taking it cool. And he's just like, yeah, whatever, dude. Okay. And you have to ask yourself, if everything that they're saying is negative and we are going in with them having the upper hand, why is it that Trump is not the one posturing? We all know Trump loves to posture. So if he's the one that's losing in a situation, why is he the one that is not seeming to care? Now, I want to give you some ideas. There is a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that has already been set for this. Let me give you some examples in the world. Before Trump took office, China was on the ascendance. I mean, kind of on the ascendance. We have to understand that China is struggling and dealing with a lot of their own troubles. But it was literally on the ascendance everywhere. Through its Belt and Road Initiative, it had taken control of so many swaths of the world, had controlled the lithium of the entire world practically. And even Trump acknowledged this when he came into office. He was talking about how there was a stranglehold on the throat of the world because they controlled all the lithium. Well, all of this began to change because when Trump came in and started throwing his tariffs around like crazy, it made everyone realize they cannot be dependent on products from China and that we have to be aware there needs to be other sourcing because China can be very, very painful to deal with on both sides of the coin there. And especially because of the fact that since China's economy is hurting so badly, they're stealing a lot of IP right now. And so they're taking all this IP and then they'll steal copyrighted materials. They'll take anything that they want to. And again, I always laugh because this is the example that I always think of. Originally, the iPhone was going into China. Apple wants to sell the iPad in China. But a toilet company decided to call one of their toilets iPad so that way they could trademark it in China, even though the international trademark had already covered this. And technically, China subscribes to the international trademarking. Basically, Apple was frisked for extra money or shaken down for extra money because a toilet company, which had affiliations with the government, by the way, had trademarked the name iPad. Now, we have changed everything. The tariffs have made huge differences. Energy has crazy changed. How the energy market has been totally shifted, specifically because of the Iran. We have control of the semiconductors. No matter how much they like to mention it, the efficiency of our semiconductors versus the semiconductors of China are incredibly different. Agricultural levels, we've been forcing them to take our soybeans through all kinds of stuff. With Iran sanctions, we've been cutting them off with not only oil, but also natural gas. We already have so much that we've demonstrated through just different holds. Now, specifically about oil. Let's go into specifically oil. Trump has single-handedly changed the whole idea of oil. And what's crazy is, here is something that someone pointed out, and it was like a no-name channel on YouTube. And I was like, that's crazy. I did not even think about that. Okay, why is Trump doing the battles that he's doing? Why is he saying what he's saying? Let's pause for a second. He forced them to take China out of the Panama Canal, meaning he's taking control of that again. Okay? He's talking about the fact that we want control over Greenland. But when he said he needed Greenland, he wasn't tremendously meaning he actually needs Greenland. What he did is he took control so much more of that area, and they've given him so much more control of the trade routes that are going around Greenland. Now, one of the other things that he's done tremendously involved in is obviously the Hormuz Strait, right? He's been facilitating more and more connections with people in the South China Sea and in that area, cutting off several connections. In other words, instead of having to cut China off from every port across the globe, he controls all the choke points. And what has that done? Let's see. He's cut off Venezuela. He's cut off Cuba. He's cut off Iran. And what has that done to specifically China's oil? Now, to give you an idea, China was pulling in something like 14 million barrels a day a year ago. And now they are at about 5 million barrels a day. So they're down a third intake of what they used to take. And why is because about 45% of their stuff comes through the Hormuz Strait, and about 20% of it came from, what's it called? Venezuela. So by Trump doing all these things, he's effectively cut them in such a horrible way. Now, mind you, China is not the only country. Australia is struggling tremendously too, because Australia is having so many shortages, they're planning on doing shutdowns. This is how much this affects the involvement that China has with the world and the globe. And let me wrap it up to give you an idea of just how much hold he has. So when people say that Trump is going in and that he's weak, they have to understand just how powerful he is going into this. Remember that I talked about the 2 or 3 different locations in America where they've found lithium recently? Where it's more, each one of those is more than the whole world combined in amount of lithium. That's an insane amount. And now everyone is coming to America to get our natural gas, to get our oil and crude oils. To give you an idea, in Louisiana, they had a port that was designed for intake. It has now been converted to outtake, to sending natural gas out, because that's how much we've flipped the market on the entire world. No matter if Iran wants to reconcile later, they have lost the market on the world. We now have it. We now control it. And if we can keep it, that'll be tremendous. But that gives you an idea of just how powerful our position is going into these debates. Now, there's something I want to talk about before I go, and that is data centers. And I kind of want you guys to comment. I want you guys to comment, help me out here. Comment in down below. Do you think that data centers are great? Do you think they're bad? Why do you think they're good? Why do you think they're bad? And here's what I'm going to tell you. Ben Shapiro is out there screaming about how data centers are the best thing that's ever happened in the world. We need them because we need to defeat China. And there's nothing better than we can get than data centers. Basically, it's like the next best thing since pockets. And Tucker Carlson's out there, and he's screaming that we should never let any data centers everywhere because they're ruining the country, they're taking away jobs, and blah, 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 blah. And then you have people like the chicks on the right who were pointing out how environmentally unfriendly they are to the areas and going on and on about how horrible these things are. Now, I will give the chicks a little bit of bonus points in that they did realize that we definitely most likely need them, but there is a negative impact. And I understand that. I want to read some of the things that they pointed out. Apparently, in the Lake Tahoe area, 50,000 people were told that their utilities will stop providing power to them because they're redirecting it to the data centers. Now, this is a report from, what was it? It was one of the big names. I can't find it. It was one of the big names. But my point behind this is this. Do we need data centers? Yes. Here's what's happening right now. If we can hold out, China is collapsing. And I know we've been saying this for a long time, but because they're cheating and they're lying, my printer's deciding to turn off. There we but because they've been cheating and lying this whole time and hiding all their stuff, they are now, their debt to ratio of GDP is 300% GDP. They are insanely, insanely underwater. And they don't have the capability to get out of it. And we keep boxing them out over and over and over again. The only thing that can save them is if they get AI before we do. And I'm not talking about the AIs that you use on your phone. I'm talking about the high degree of AI, the stuff that is sentient. And no matter how much Hawkins thinks that his Claudia is sentient, she's not. But where's the middle ground? Are we saying that data centers are going to remove all the jobs? Are we saying data centers are going to give all the jobs? Are we saying that data centers on their own are just so wonderful that they are worth the expenditure and loss? Or how about this one? There's a facility that's going into the Utah State area, and it's going to create 7 to 8 gigawatts of heat. Of extra heat, and plus the electricity power that they already consume, which is 9 gigawatts of heat coming out of there. So they're saying the total gigawatt output of heat is 16 gigawatts. It says the energy release is calculated to be something comparable to 25 atomic bombs per day in that valley. This is the equivalent to that of the energy footprint of 40,000 super Walmarts. The local temperatures in the area will rise about 5 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and 28 degrees at night. Can you imagine the impacts that will have on the world in that area? Now, here's something interesting. So then I want to follow this up with Ben Shapiro had a it's a Gallup poll, and it was saying how many people are for 7 in 10 Americans oppose local construction of AI data centers. And it's asked how, strong oppose, whatever. So 7% are strongly in favor of data centers coming in. 20% are somewhat in favor of. 23% are somewhat opposed, and 48% strongly opposed. And here is my middle ground point. Do we need data centers to defeat China? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely we do. Should we allow them to be put in at the cost of the local communities? No. Because here's the point. All of these companies will be doing them. They will be installing them. Okay? We don't have to hand them everything. And we should hold them to account to make sure that what is done to the environment in their area is mitigated to the greatest extent possible. There's a lot of ways of doing that. You can build them underground. You can do a lot of, I know it sounds crazy, but you can build them underground or control that heat output. There's processes to do these kinds of things. On that scale, probably incredibly hard. And I understand that there's a balance between just we putting so much regulation on it that we shut it down, whereas China's just going to say, go do it, go for it, we don't care. I understand that. But at the same time, we can't sell our souls for this. There has to be a middle ground. We have to do everything we can while encouraging the implementation of these things to benefit our country and to prevent China from overwhelming us militarily and not destroying ourselves in the process. And that's going to require wisdom. It's going to require understanding. It's going to require a middle ground that a lot of people are not willing to go to. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like, comment, and subscribe. It really, really, really helps the channel. And I know I asked you this, and if you've reached the end here, I appreciate it so much. Could you please just leave a comment of any kind down below and maybe tell me what you think about data centers and what we should do, if we should do them or we shouldn't do them. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching.